Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of SNEED-CAST. I'm your host Alexa. Today, our special guest is none other than Laurent Meira, who happens to be the general manager for the skincare brand Odacité Skincare. Hello Laurent. Thank you so much for joining us on SNEED-CAST.
Hi Alex, thank you for having me.
Of course. And then just a little bit about your background so that our viewers can know a little bit more about you. So, you do hold your MBA in International Business and Economics as well as your bachelor's in Business Administration from California State University, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then you've actually been in the industry for over 20 years. You've had leadership experience across operations, business development, and strategic management. So, can you talk to us a little bit more about your experience?
Sure. So really I started more in, general operations, setting up
Hmm.
warehouse, and really basically general distribution in the US for either French or Chinese companies.
Hmm.
Um, and one thing kind of led to the others where eventually I ended up going to Asia for about 10 years, setting up operations there for a US company, just basically warehousing, productions.
Hmm.
So a lot of background in general operations and really understanding, a little bit the variation between how do you set up a factory, whether it's in France, in US or in China, with, sometimes a lot of cultural clash on what people feel is, is the norm or not norm, and what common
Hmm.
sense needs to look like. But really, in terms of products, I did a lot with different type of like pet products. So
Hmm.
anything from the food all the way down to the different toys, cat house and so forth. Quite a bit in the furniture area as well. So that was kind of my early entry in manufacturing. And then for the past 20 years, it's been really focusing more on luxury products. So a lot more with fashion, so very high-end, very niche brands,
Hmm.
a lot of silk, very heavy embroideries going in. And for the past 5 years, it's been in the cosmetic industry with
Right.
us.
And so you've gone from like pet products, furniture, luxury brands. What is it that led you to Audacity Skincare?
So kind of a meet cute, to be honest. At that time, I was doing mostly consulting for smaller brands in,
Hmm.
how do you penetrate the US market, how do you establish the channel, the sourcing, and so forth. And I saw the posting for Audacity. They were looking for a general manager to really, sorry, to really kind of look over operation and facilitate. So at that point, the company was starting to grow relatively fast. And of course, with any growth, there's growing pain. There's the managers that are used to a certain volume, but all of a sudden, having a hard time keeping up with the growth. So I've interviewed for it. The original arrangement was really more in terms of doing a consulting, looking at operation, figuring out what would be the best way for them to move forward, what type of role they needed to support the growth. So that was a 6 months engagement, and here we are 6 years later. So it's
So one of the questions that I have, obviously it's a French luxury skincare business, but you're based out in California, and that's something that I think is interesting because you guys, where was it? Sorry about that. I'm over here blanking.
yeah, we
Um,
started in Topanga in California.
right.
So it's kind of the best of both worlds, if you wish.
Mm-hmm.
So the founder of Audacity, actually Valerie, is French, but she's been in the US for well over 20 years now. And so she came, she was living in the Tapanga area and loved the mountain views, the sea view, and the whole atmosphere that comes with it. And so, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and eventually she kind of took a hard look at herself. She had a very active lifestyle, we would say.
Mm-hmm.
She was in the publishing of advertising and so forth, and so she was all over the world all the time, very hectic, always traveling. and scouting for different locations. And so when she was diagnosed, the prognostic was not great. So she really took a hard look at herself and said, okay, well, what can I change that will get my life back in track? And she realized, like a good amount of French women, that we put on a lot of cosmetics, of, well, I shouldn't say like makeup and so forth, not as much, but really like skincare. And she realized that a lot of those skincare had parabens, aluminums, and other contaminants in it. So back in 2009, she was kind of a pioneer in the clean beauty. So it was kind of that meet cute of, the California green lifestyle, the open air, the mountain area, the sea, and the French cosmetic bourgeois side. So that was kind of the, how do we make that work together? And so she really kind of switched her lifestyle altogether. And very interestingly, she uses a scout that she had from the advertising business to source the best ingredient in different countries. So she would go to Japan and source the matcha powder from the Japanese area. I would go to Africa, source the baobab oil, and kind of go around the different scout and say, okay, well, what is the traditional medicine that this particular area would use? What are the ingredients that keep coming back? So she collected all of that, and voila, she started Odacité with kind of mixing things up and figuring out, okay, baobab is great for elasticity, the marula is great for this, and started to concoct the formulas in her own kitchen, actually, in Tapanga. And then things started to evolve. She had a few private clients where she basically created a line specifically for them, depending on their lifestyle. And then, that was the beginning of the company.
Right. And then you mentioned that this is clean beauty instead of just focusing on like makeup or, what we would typically associate with like the beauty industry. What kind of product offerings do you guys have?
So I think, the term clean beauty has changed a lot from its beginning. There's a lot of company now that claim clean beauty. We actually, in the past 5 years, have changed that conversation a little bit more because, clean beauty was originally like homeopathy, right? It just doesn't resonate with people. They were like, oh, if it's clean, it's not going to be working, it's not effective. So we really pivoted and focused on the effectiveness of the product. And so clean is just the DNA, meaning that all of the ingredients that we use, the skin is able to absorb it and is non-toxic to the skin. There's no contaminant into it. So that's the DNA. So we kind of switch that conversation a little bit, and go head to head with larger company, do some basically clinical studies, clinical trial on the product to get information on the effectiveness of it. So it's, obviously a smaller scale than larger companies, but similar type of an idea, similar scientific process to it to demonstrate the effectiveness. In terms of the range, it really varies. We started with very specific skin concerns. So your skin, depending on where you live, depending on the time of the year, has different needs, whether it's, you live in a humidity areas or your skin is too oily and so forth, or you have acne. So really we started with 18 very concentrated actives that would target each one of those conditions. And the idea was that you would just add that to your normal daily routine. So you put your moisturizer, you put 1 or 2 drops of that because today you need more elasticity or you need more hydration. So we would just kind of cocktail it this way first. And for the past 5 years, we've kind of evolved for a full routine. So we do have moisturizers, we do have cleansers, we do have masks. So it encompasses a lot more of the full routine.
Right. And now that we know a little bit more about the company, how would you say that your experience across like all of these various leadership positions, how would you say that it's influenced or shaped your approach when it comes to working at Odacité?
That's a good question. That was really a cultural shock at first. Sorry, I've been working in the furniture where I was a lot more heavier type of products, equipment and so forth. So there was definitely a strong learning curve. The basic though is still kind of the same when you're looking at operation. If you take out the product and everything that goes around, there's still a specific process and how people react to it, so quality control and so forth still has a play. I mean, obviously you need a tweak for the product and making sure it's adapted to the machineries, but the logic and how you would approach the job is essentially the same. So in terms of the management of people, it was definitely a bit harder because I did not know enough about the product or the industry per se. So there was a good year of learning who is who, what type of product or ingredients does what. But I had a very strong team that was, very, very good coach, very passionate about the business. So that was pretty good.
Right. And I know earlier you had mentioned that Odacité Skincare focuses very much on being like eco-conscious, or the ingredients that you guys have are very clean. Um, and obviously, like in California, you talked about the naturalistic elements of it and how the owner fell in love with that. But how does obviously Odacité being like a French skincare and implementing those kind of traditions combined with California's obviously like outdoor eco-friendly like approach, how does that show up in your day-to-day operations?
So, I mean, for starter, we have two kitchens. We have a vegan kitchen and then a more traditional. So we do offer for the staff. So if they have the vegan lifestyle, they have that opportunity. The staff is also very much like California, very varied. We have people from Russia, we have people from Armenia, we have people that are from, sorry, for Giselle, she's from, it's not Guam. Okay, I'll come back, but we
Right.
have people based, I think we're somewhere around 11 different nationality in the company. So it does provide for a very vibrant environment and also a lot of different exchange of ideas that comes into the product.
Right. And then with everything being handcrafted in your labs, how important would you say that quality control and consistency is for the brand or within your production process?
So extremely, and it is also extremely challenging because with any natural product, it depends on the harvest, it depends on the season. So consistency is very, very difficult to obtain, and we do make sure to disclaim when we put that that there is variation depending on the harvest. I give you the example we use for one of our products. We use acai, and it does very much depend on what time was it harvested. Was it earlier in the season? Did the season come later? So you can go anywhere from a product that would be a heavy green color all the way to a product that would be a light purple. So it's important for us to really communicate and show example of it so that when people receive the product, they understand what it means, and it's not a defective. It's just that because it is a natural product, we are not artificially controlling the color. It comes up just like a flower would come up, a little bit brighter or not. Same thing here with the oil being expressed. That would depend on the harvest that comes in.
Right. And now, if we can dive a little bit more into like the operations, the behind the scenes. Obviously, before any of these products reach your your customers, your consumers, they have to have certain degrees of like traceability information. So whether that be like your lot codes, your batch codes, date codes. How is it that you guys were adding this information prior to coming across our solutions, if that makes sense?
So absolutely. So really, like I mentioned, about 5 years ago, there was a pivot in the company. So originally we were, essentially using one packaging, one size bottle, and so it was one stamper that does it all, right? Because it's essentially the same thing across. We just needed to change the lot code. And so we started actually with SNEED by buying the ink cartridge from another printer solution. And I got to talk with the sales rep and like, okay, I mean, we're kind of evolving, right? We're going from little bit of bottles like this to bottles that are now 120 ml, 240 ml,
Right.
box size that are completely different than what they used to be. So there needs to be some flexibility.
Hmm.
And so we tried originally the Titan, the hand label Titan, which the team had a very hard time with because basically they're pushing 1,000 units and it's very, very labor intensive. And so they were going with the label machine going out and they felt, after like 10 times, it's just too heavy for them to do it. And also it's a small box, so it was hard to calibrate. So that started, sorry, that started more of a conversation of, okay, I mean, you guys have the technology, but what can we play around to make it where it fits the need of the business, where, we need to be able to label bottles, we need to be able to label tubes, we need to be able to label the different box that comes with it. So there's a flexibility that comes in where the gun solution was just not adequate.
Right.
And that was kind of it for probably about 6 months or so. And then get a call back from Santos, and it's like, hey, we're working on this machine. It's going to be a tabletop, and you can adjust the depth, you can adjust the height, and you can change the ink colors. So if you want for different country, you need to have a blue ink. We have that solution as well. If you need to have a yellow ink for lighter bottles to come through. So I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. Let's take a look at it. So we actually got the first, I believe the first or second prototype of the desktop version, and that was about a year or so ago. Tried it, loved it. It was interesting to teach the team how to use it because anything that's new, right, takes a little bit of take off. But after 3 months, we ended up ordering a second unit to have it thrown. So now we're not even using the hand stamper anymore. Everything is done with those 2 units going in. Super flexible in terms of any type of labeling actually that you want to do, the sizing as well. We have boxes that are more into the 6 inches. So if we want consistency on how the lot code is printed size-wise compared to the box, that was super easy to implement.
Right. And then out of curiosity, because I know that there are tons and like it seems endless printing solutions out there, what is it that caught your eye about that Titan printer or the Titan tabletop printer? And then like what sets it apart from all of the other printing solutions?
So, I mean, honestly, I feel we were very invested with it because the inception of the idea, was a conversation with Santos, and he mentioned you guys were working on it. But we've looked around quite a bit, and there was just not anything out there that was out of the box what we needed.
Right.
So there were solutions, but they are really not for our company because they're, like if you do 100,000 units, it's a whole chain montage, and it was just not, or at least not at the level that we wanted.
Right.
We don't do 50,000 units. It's more, we do production. Sometimes it's 500 units, 1,000 units, 5,000 units would start to be very high for us. So it was important to have a solution that's flexible enough to be, humanly relatable, not a whole
Right.
montage coming into it. Space was definitely a concern as well. And so this is a very practical, very compact solution.
And then, so I know you had mentioned briefly that obviously your team has to take the time to get to know this new system. It's always daunting to, integrate new equipment because sometimes it can be a little bit complicated. But in this case, would you say like it was plug and play, like you were able to get it running relatively quickly, or was it something that took a lot longer to integrate?
No, no, it was very simple. I think the challenge was to figure out printing size per box per style. So what we ended up doing is I don't have a picture of the system here, but basically it comes in with a little plate on each
Right.
side. So you have a plate to rest, and then you have a side plate as well. So we ended up marking each product. So we use a marker and then literally mark the placement for each one. But within about a week or so, everybody in the team was able to use the machine and figuring out, what needs to happen, or sometimes if they want, if it's a darker one, being able to adjust the ink level just to make sure that we optimize the ink as well. So that was pretty seamless actually.
Right. And then I know sometimes, like when you're implementing new coding technology, maybe some individuals think that, okay, like you're improving your traceability, but in what other ways is this type of technology helping you out? Would you say that it's helped you in your pursuit of achieving more sustainable packaging, more sustainable products, in terms of traceability, inventory, and what other areas would you say that this has helped you out in?
So really, the traceability is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, compliance. Cosmetic has a lot of different compliance issues, and so we are able to play with either load coding, the dating, understanding if date needs to be different. Different country has different format of date. So this has been kind of because we're doing small batch, where we're actually able to manipulate that a little bit more and customize it more to the end consumer. In terms of inventory control, to be honest, we haven't, it hasn't really changed too much because they are going from what the lab is telling them. So they really go by SKU. But definitely for the lab, it's been like changing, like even for retained samples. So everything, before they were having a hard time, everything is a printed label that they would put through. And then
Right.
now, right now, we get the label we get the sample done from the lab. They put it on the machine, it's labeled, goes to the shelf. So all the management of the retained sample has been quite a bit improved. In terms of the overall cost effectiveness, it's a very cost effective system compared to what it would be if we've sent bottles outside to be printed and coming back. This is probably about half the cost that we would have to pay to send it out and come back through.
Right.
So that was an interesting one. The system itself, like I said, it's pretty simple. I've not really played much with coders, and we're able to figure out within 5 minutes. The training, it takes a bit more time. It's just placement. At that point, it's whatever product comes through. But yeah, it's been actually a very easy plug and play. I know there's ways to actually integrate it in a little bit more of a chain, and I've talked to the sales rep, and maybe that would be the next step to actually have the printer in line, but still having that capacity of, if something needs to come in the QC control, they're able to pull the box and then just restamp it really quickly without having to stop everything. So I think for QC, it's been really important.
Right. And then talking a little bit about quality control, would you say that having this type of technology has also helped to reduce potentially like returns, or has it helped you improve customer satisfaction? Has it touched like in those areas, or is it more so just still behind the scenes?
So heavily behind the scene, but the outcome with customer definitely yes, because like I said, we're able to adapt the stamping based on the products. So a lot code that's more visible, people are having less issue. Another example is that it's flexible enough to go from a small 5 ml bottle all the way up to a larger bottle. So now we're able to stamp our small 5 ml bottle, which in the past we were not able to.
Right.
And then if people trash the box, then they show us the product, but we really have no idea of what's the batch number. So now they're actually able to just flip it over, give us the batch that retains with the bottle. So that
Right.
was helpful in that sense for sure.
And then I know from a marketing perspective, we have this saying where it's like people trust people. So from your perspective, since you work within the skincare industry, what would you say to other skincare, beauty, health companies or brands that are considering upgrading to like a different printing system as well?
Yeah, we definitely recommend it. I think it's got the flexibility. It is scalable as well. I know Santos showed me the unit in an actual production chain, so it is flexible enough to do that. And it does definitely have, if you have a lab where you're doing development, you can actually use that specifically for the lab in the development process without having to have a manual stamper going in. So definitely recommended.
And then you talked about how you've seen so much growth within the past couple of years for Odacité. What's next? Like, what's coming up next in the company? Are you guys focusing on any big projects?
So right now we're really, I think, US market, it's been very stable growth for us. So right now we're really looking at the international, trying to see how we can bring the brand out. So Europe, it's definitely been a focus, but we're also expanding in Asia and in Australia at this time.
Right. And then, so maybe it's because I'm completely out of the loop. Um, but what is it that sets Audacity apart, and what would you want our customers to know about the brand?
So, I mean, really the dedication to the quality of the product. I think for us, the challenge is to have people try the product. Once they do try, we have a retention rate that's much higher than the industry average. And I think it's because people really get behind the product. They see effect relatively quickly, and it's done in a natural way. So you have people that sometimes, for example, we use a lot of essential oil and different natural oils combined. And people with oily skin would go like, that's probably not for me. But once you get them to try, actually, they understand. I mean, that's part of your natural skin, and how the skin absorb the different element that goes onto it. And so that's really, I think that's what sets us apart, the formula that goes in and really the investment that Valerie puts into it. She's got her hand in every single formula that we've done. And it does change. We have one formula that took her somewhere around 16 different reformulation.
Wow, the dedication. If our customers wanted to find these products, where could they find them at?
So they could find it at different retailers, or they could go directly to our website at odacité.com. And then we have, I think, somewhere around 600 some retailers in the US that carries it.
Well, thank you so much for all of the great information, Laurent. Again, I can't thank you enough for everything that you gave us today.
All right. Thanks, Alexa. It was nice
Of
talking to you.
course. It was nice talking to you too. Bye.